Hi guys. So I really enjoy live music, and the other day I was online and I was surfing around trying to find some possible concerts to go to. And these days going to see headliners is way too rich for my budget. But anyway, as I was thinking about it, the impression I've had in my mind for a long time is, gee, I didn't go to see that many concerts in my lifetime. I've known some people who go to concerts, several of them every year, and I knew I didn't come close to that. So I was just curious, and I started to write down all the concerts I've been to in my lifetime. And I came up with some that I'd kind of forgotten about. It was really nostalgic. It brought back a lot of great memories. And I was surprised at the cross-section of genres that I've seen. And some of the performers that I was really very lucky to have seen in my lifetime. So I thought maybe you'd be interested in that, and I would share my list with you. Maybe it will stir up some memories of your own. I was going to include short clips of the artists, but YouTube said no, so you won't get that. So here we go. The first concert I went to was on October 3rd, 1971, at the Auditorium Theater in Denver. I was 16, and I was dating this guy, and he wanted to take me to a concert. The musician was Cat Stevens. I wasn't a big Cat Stevens fan back then, but as it always kind of happens when you go to a concert, after I went to the concert, I became more of a fan. And here's a little bit of history for those of you who don't know. Cat Stevens was a folk, rock, and pop artist. And in 1969, he contracted tuberculosis. And as a result of that, he had to spend a lot of time in the hospital recuperating. And during all that time in the hospital, he reflected on his life and he became more spiritual. So in 1977, he converted to Islam. And the following year, he adopted the name of Yusuf Islam. Me in high school. I dated my first husband while we were both in high school, and he was a year ahead of me. And after he graduated, he decided to go to Europe for part of the summer. You know, backpacking in Europe was kind of a rite of passage. And when he returned, I flew to New York City to meet him. And, I just thought about this. We planned this meetup in New York City, but we had no cell phones, no email. We communicated mostly through letters and, a long-distance phone call, which would be very expensive. But somehow we managed to meet up, and I have no idea how we managed that. But anyway, we met up in New York City, and we got a drive-away car to go back home to Colorado. And does anybody know what those were back then? I can tell you in another video if you're curious, but anyway, he met up with somebody while he was traveling in Europe, and this guy invited us to come visit him at his home in Asbury Park, New Jersey. When we get there, his friend says, hey, you guys want to go to a concert? And, of course, yeah, we're down. So we drive down to Seaside Heights and go to a place called Fat City. And there, in June of 1973, we attend a concert for some guy. His name was Bruce Springsteen. He had just released his first album called Greetings from Asbury Park in January. I had no idea who he was, and I didn't realize it then, but now it's pretty awesome that I got to see him in concert just 6 months after his first album was released. This next one is also pretty epic. I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I was still dating the same guy I saw Springsteen with. And in November of 1975, we went to Mackey Auditorium at the university campus to see the Jerry Garcia Band. Jerry Garcia was, of course, the lead songwriter and vocalist with the Grateful Dead. He had formed the Jerry Garcia Band just 2 months before I saw him. And it was a very, let's say, hazy concert. In the 1970s, Colorado had this great concert series they called Colorado Sunday. The concerts were held at either Folsom Field on the campus in Boulder or at the old Mile High Stadium in Denver. And you guys, it was never just like one headliner. There were several great performers on one ticket. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to 2 such concerts. The first was in August 1976 at Mile High Stadium. The three bands playing were the Eagles, Linda Ronstadt, and Pure Prairie League. Now, at the time, I was a big Linda Ronstadt fan, and she was the main draw for me, but come on. The Eagles and Pure Prairie League, along with Linda Ronstadt, it was epic. And in case you didn't know, the lead singer of Pure Prairie League was none other than Vince Gill. And the epic concerts keep coming. The next one was November 6, 1976. It was at Balch Fieldhouse at the University of Colorado, and the performer was Neil Young and Crazy Horse. My favorite Neil Young song didn't come along until 1992, so it wasn't on the set list for that concert. My favorite song is Harvest Moon. You probably know it. The second Colorado Sunday concert I attended was on May 1st, 1977 at Folsom Field. The bands at that concert were, and are you ready for this, Fleetwood Mac, John Sebastian, Country Joe McDonald, Santana, Bob Seger, and Firefall. And do you see the price of that ticket? $8.50. For reference, the price of a movie ticket around that time averaged $2.50. I did want to talk especially about Firefall, because Firefall was a Boulder, Colorado band. They started there. They played in bars around in the area, and they didn't have an album, I don't think, until 1976. So I got to see them at the bars, and then they had the good luck to be able to start playing with Fleetwood Mac, and they became very popular. So I eventually get married to the Springsteen Jerry Garcia guy, and we moved to Oregon, where he started going to law school. And I guess this technically counts as a concert. So we're at Lewis and Clark College, and I can't remember exactly, but I think this was more of a lecture series about classical music, and some classical musicians were there. My then husband had a more sophisticated musical palette than I did, and he knew of this guitarist who was a student of Andre Segovia. Now, I knew enough about classical music to know that Segovia was the classical guitarist. But anyway, the person he wanted to go see was named Christopher Parkening, and this was in 1978, I think. In the mountains of Colorado, in a small town called Morrison, there's an outdoor amphitheater called Red Rocks. And in my opinion, it rivals any concert venue in the world. And reading from their website, they say, Red Rocks is a geologically formed open-air amphitheater not duplicated anywhere in the world. With Mother Nature as the architect, the design of the amphitheater consists of two 300-foot monoliths, Shiprock and Creation Rock, that provide a stunning setting for any performance. Well, just watch this little video. Absolutely stunning. Anyway, my first concert at Red Rocks was on August 21st, 1981, and I got to see Air Supply. My second Red Rocks experience was June 1982, and the bands were the late, great Jimmy Buffett and Bonnie Raitt. In those days, you could arrive early and hang out at Red Rocks for the day until the concert started. I got there pretty early, and I remember Bonnie coming out to do a sound check. And people, of course, were cheering like crazy just for this sound check, so she ended up doing 3 complete songs for us. It's one of my more memorable experiences, I have to say. There weren't very many people there, so it felt more like it was a personal concert. Who remembers this handsome guy? I can't recall the date or the location of this concert. I'm guessing it was 1983, and it was at some kind of supper club venue in Denver. And I went with my cousin to see Rick Nelson. Guys, I had a crush on him from the time I was old enough to watch the Ozzie and Harriet show. I'm really dating myself by mentioning the Ozzie and Harriet show. Rick died in a plane crash in 1985, so I feel really fortunate that I got to see him in concert. Again, I think this was 1983. I didn't attend any more concerts for almost 20 years. I guess that's probably why it feels like I didn't get to see very many artists, but along the way I became a single parent and the cost got to be too much. It was a luxury I couldn't afford. Then I started this love affair with jazz because in the early 80s I was doing housework around the house or something like that, and a short documentary came on TV of this hang glider. There wasn't any talking, just a hang glider flying. But the background music grabbed me, and I had to find out who it was. I called the local TV station, and I hounded them until I found out who the artist was on the soundtrack. The artist was Earl Klugh. He's an acoustic jazz guitarist. He's known as a jazz guitarist, but one of his first influences was Chet Atkins, and Earl became a guest artist on some of Chet Atkins' albums, and even appeared on Hee Haw, Out in a Cornfield, and everything. I saw Earl Klugh a total of 6 times, 2007, 2009, 2010, 2012, 2014, and 2018. All but one of those concerts was at Ram's Head Stage in Annapolis. He stopped touring in 2019, and now I think the only concerts he does are in April at the Weekend of Jazz in Colorado Springs. It's a concert event that he founded, so he does go to that. I'd love to be able to go, but the cost is out of range for me. I attended several other jazz concerts. I saw Dave Koz twice, once in 2013 with my sister at the Thornton Winery in Temecula, California for the Summer of Horns tour. And then in 2015, I saw him at the Strathmore Music Hall in Bethesda for his Christmas tour. The last 2 concerts I saw were at Blues Alley in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. They were Lee Ritenour and David Benoit. Lee Ritenour is a guitarist, David Benoit is a pianist. I think most people recognize Lee Ritenour from the song Is It Me? And David Benoit, if you know anything about Charlie Brown, you know David Benoit. And that's it. That's the totality of the concert-going experience for me in my life so far. I am now really enthusiastic about the idea of trying to find a little bit of money in my budget to be able to go and see a few more artists. And I apologize to you all. I did want to include some clips of the artists that I got to see. It made it a whole lot more interesting, but I uploaded it and YouTube said no, copyright restriction. So I had to take all of that out. So you may have to just go and listen to it on your own somehow. But I want to hear from you guys. Which concerts did you go to when you were younger? Or which concerts do you go to now? Are you finding concerts that you're able to afford? Let me know in the comments. And I hope you all had a good 4th of July. I was going to make this a Throwback Thursday, but July 4th was Thursday. So that's why we have a Flashback Friday. And I hope you have a great upcoming weekend. And we'll talk to you more soon. Bye.